If you're ready to transition from using your Nintendo 3DS on the small screens to using it on the big screens, this video has got you covered. I'll show you how to make backups of your legally owned games for use in the emulator, how to transfer your legally owned BIOS and system files from your new Nintendo 3DS or old Nintendo 3DS system, how to set up and use a wireless controller with the emulator, and how to play your legally owned backups either in single screen mode or in 3DS dual screen mode. This video is focused on the Windows version of the Azahar emulator, and the system requirements are actually really light. Windows 10 64-bit, an x86-x64 ARM64 processor, a GPU that can handle OpenGL or Vulkan, and only 2 gigs or a recommended 4 gigs of RAM are pretty light specs. And it really opens up Azahar to a lot of Windows-based computers, even those with older hardware. You'll need a jailbroken Nintendo 2DS or Nintendo 3DS system for the emulator to work properly. I have guides in the video description to show you how to get this done. As we get started with part 1 here, which is making backups of your legally owned Nintendo 3DS or 2DS games, I want to point out an important legal notice here. I live in South Carolina and I made this video in South Carolina. Under 16.11.930 of the South Carolina Code of Laws, I'm legally entitled to make backups of physical media as long as I don't distribute them for personal financial gain. Since I haven't distributed this game or any other games as part of this video, that means that everything we're about to do is above board, but I do recommend that you check the laws in your state or province before proceeding. The game I'm going to back up in this video is one I legally own the physical copy of called Tales of the Abyss. It is not a Nintendo first-party title. With the power off on your handheld, go ahead and insert whatever cartridge that you legally own and want to back up into your 2DS or 3DS system. You'll need a microSD card or SD card with enough storage capacity to back up the content. In this case, the game's only about 1.5 GB and I'm using this 32 GB SanDisk microSD card. I have this and some other great cards linked for you in the video description. Before you power on your 2DS or 3DS system, hold the start button, and while holding start, then power on your system. Depending upon the version of Luma 3DS you have installed, and depending upon how you have things set up, it will either boot directly into God Mode 9 or load up the loader that you see here. In this case, I have the loader, so I'll scroll down to God Mode 9 with the D-pad and select it with A. Then in the top display, you'll see the God Mode 9 logo. In the bottom display, you might be prompted to set the real-time clock, especially if you've removed power and the battery from your system. For this example, I'll press A to select it, and then set the real-time clock using the D-pad to scroll through the choices. Once the date and time are set, press the A button to lock in the changes. You'll be taken to the God Mode 9 main menu. Looking at the bottom display, from the main menu of God Mode 9, press the Home button on your device. This opens up what's called the Action menu. You'll see a highlight arrow to the left of some new menu options. Use the D-pad and scroll that highlight arrow down until you get to the menu listing that says Scripts. Select it with the A button. Inside the Scripts menu, you'll find a submenu listing here called GM9 Megascript. Scroll down to it with the arrow, select it with the A button. You'll find several choices inside here. The one you're specifically looking for is called Miscellaneous, and it's near the bottom. Scroll down to Miscellaneous with the D-pad, and with the arrow pointing at Miscellaneous, select it with A. Right near the top of the Miscellaneous submenu, you'll see a choice called Cartridge Options. Make sure the highlight arrow is pointing at it and select it with A. Inside the submenu, there's a choice called Dump Cartridge to .3DS. If you've done any homework on Azahar, you probably already know that it only runs .cci versions of games. Don't worry, we're going to take care of that shortly. In this case, just select Dump Cartridge to .3DS with the A button. The next screen is going to give you a clue where the backup of your cartridge is being copied to your microSD card. It shows you the exact folder, and we're going to go to that folder on the microSD or SD card here once the process is complete. For now, just select Yes with the A button to start the cartridge dumping process. And man, oh man, be prepared to hurry up and wait. These games do not dump quickly. Yeah, I know there's going to be a timer popping up here in the top right corner, and it shows you some pretty outlandish times to get started, like it's going to take almost an hour. In reality, this took about maybe 15 to 20 minutes to dump this game in its entirety. We're going to skip the labor pains and get right to the baby using the magic of video editing. Once the backup process is complete, the status bar will disappear and the screen will be updated. You'll see a confirmation message as to where the game has been dumped in the folder structure on the microSD card. We'll go to that in just a minute. For now, press the A button to continue. There's an entire second part of dumping the games, and if you skip this part of it, the games are not going to work in the emulator. Make sure when you see this message that you press the A button to continue. And yes, pretty much you're going to have to go through an entire 15 to 20 minute process for the second phase of the cartridge dumping to be completed. So yeah, it takes almost a half an hour to totally dump a usable game from cartridge to your microSD card. Hey, I said this process was going to work. I never said it was fast. Once your cartridge has been completely dumped, you're done with God Mode 9. Press A, then press the B button to go back, the B button to go back again, and B again to get back to the God Mode 9 main menu. From here, press the Home button. The top menu listing says Power Off. With the highlight arrow there, press A to turn off your system. Remove the SD or microSD card from your 2DS or 3DS system and insert it into your computer. The next steps in this guide take place in Windows. From your Windows desktop, go ahead and open up an instance of File Explorer and open up this PC. For this example, I have a microSD card inserted into an SD card adapter, and the name of this card is called Subscribe so that you don't forget to subscribe to the channel while you're here. Identify your SD or microSD card and double-click on its drive letter. At the root of the SD or microSD card, you're going to see a folder here called GM9. Locate that folder and double-click on it. Inside here, you'll see several subfolders. The one you're looking for is called Out. Double-click on the Out folder. This is where you're going to find the copy of the backed up game you created. In this case, it has a .3DS extension. For these games to work inside Azahar, you need to change the extension. If you don't see a file extension name listed on the game that you backed up, it might just be that you don't have file extensions visible inside Windows. Here's how you fix that. Click on View, then come down and hover over Show. Come over to the right and make sure there's a check mark next to File Name Extensions. If it doesn't have a check mark, click on it to put a check mark here. You'll then see the file extension names for any files you see in File Explorer. Now you'll need to change the name of any games you've backed up from .3DS to .CCI. Right-click on the file and select Rename from the list of choices. Then go all the way over to the right, backspace over 3DS, and change the file name extensions for any games you've backed up to .CCI. When you change a file extension in Windows, a lot of times Windows will not be able to utilize that file anymore, but in this case, we need a .cci file. Windows is going to ask you to confirm this change before it will allow you to change the file name. So you'll see this pop up here. When you see this pop-up notification appear, click on Yes to confirm the change. Now your file name will be .cci, which is exactly what the Azahar emulator needs. Okay, let's get the file off of the microSD card here and put it in a folder in Windows so that Azahar can use them. I'm going to right-click, select Show More Options, and then select Cut because I want to move it off of the microSD card and over to Windows and not have a backup copy on the microSD card. I have a folder on my D drive that's labeled as Demo. You won't have a demo folder. I just have it as a means of having a place to show files and folders for YouTube videos. So I'm going to go to that demo folder here. Now right-click wherever you want to put this file off of your microSD card and select Paste. That'll permanently remove the file from the microSD card and put it on your Windows computer. From here, you can optionally rename these files, but in this case, I'm going to leave it exactly like it dumped it because I'm going to show you that inside Azahar, it's going to be able to identify the title either way. Go ahead and close out File Explorer for now. We've got some downloading to do. And it all starts with the Azahar emulator itself. It's hosted on the GitHub, and I have it linked for you in the video description. On the Assets page, scroll down until you see the listings for the various download types for the various operating systems. You're looking for a very specific file here. It's specifically the one that says Azahar has a version number, Windows, and msvs2.zip. Don't grab the installer, specifically get the zip file. Click on it and download the zip file to your computer. Next up, head over to the Artic setup page. It's also hosted on the GitHub and linked for you in the video description. This is used to transfer your system software and BIOS files from your device to your computer. For this example, download the listing that has the .cia extension. we're going to install it right on the home menu of your 2DS or 3DS system using the .cia file shown here. Okay, let's unpack what you just downloaded. Open up File Explorer again and navigate to the Downloads folder. You're going to see two things here. One of them is going to be the .cia file that will move over to your microSD or SD card here in just a moment. And the other is a zip file. Right-click on the zip file and select Extract All. You can use the default path to extract to because we're going to have the option of moving all of this in just a minute if you want to. So for now, just pick Extract at the bottom right corner. And once the extract process is complete, you're done with the zip file. You can right-click on it and pick Delete to send it to the recycle bin. The .cia file needs to be transferred from your Downloads folder to the root of your SD or microSD card. Right-click on that file and select Copy, or alternatively, just highlight it. I'm going to take this File Explorer window and then drag it over to the left side of the screen and just let it snap into place over here. I like to copy things from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. I'm going to go down to File Explorer here and open it up again and go to this PC. I'll take this File Explorer window and drag it over to the right side of the screen to snap it into place. I still have the micro SD card inserted and it's still this drive letter named subscribe, so I'll double click on it. You'll see a series of folders and files on your own SD or micro SD card. Whether you paste it by right-clicking or dragging it over, don't put it in a subfolder. Just put the CIA file right on the root of your SD or micro SD card. Now you can close out the File Explorer window for your SD or micro SD card. I'm going to maximize the window here to make things a little easier to see. You can actually delete the CIA file from your Downloads folder because it's already on your micro SD card or SD card and it's backed up now in your recycle bin just in case you need it later. Next up, double-click into the newly extracted folder inside your Downloads folder. When you go inside of it, you're going to have an Azahar subfolder here. At this point, you can either just leave it right where it is, or you can take this folder and move it anywhere on your computer that you want. But it makes sense to either leave it in place or move it right now before you go through the next steps. I'll leave it in place. Go ahead and double-click into the Azahar folder that's inside the original download. You'll see a series of icons here. One of them is going to be labeled Azahar.exe and have the logo for Azahar on the file itself. Locate it, but do not click on it yet. We need to take care of some key tasks before you launch the emulator for the first time. Things will go much smoother with the initial setup inside Azahar if you do these two things first. The first task is to make sure that both your computer and your Nintendo 2DS or 3DS are both on the same wireless network. You can't do this with a wired connection. It has to be connected to Wi-Fi to be able to reach the Wi-Fi network that's going to be established using the Artic setup on your 3DS or 2DS system. I mean, you can leave the Ethernet cable plugged in, that's what I did, but you still have to go back and also connect to the wireless network for the 2DS or 3DS system before you can proceed. Otherwise, the following steps are not going to work correctly. In this case, my new Nintendo 3DS XL is already connected to the wireless network named IFFTU. Hey, let me know in the comments if you know what IFFTU stands for. Cool. Once you have your computer connected to the same Wi-Fi network as your 2DS or 3DS system, you can close out the Wi-Fi connection tool in Windows. Cool. This takes care of the first of the two steps. The other one is, it really will be a much more enjoyable gaming experience inside Azahar if you go ahead and connect a wired or wireless gamepad right now. If you're using a compatible USB controller, just plug it in. If you're using a Bluetooth wireless controller, like this Xbox Series controller, click on the Bluetooth tool and select Add Device. From the list of choices at the top, select the choice at the top that says Controllers at the end of it. Then put your controller into pairing mode, in this case the Xbox Series controller. Because it's native to Windows, you'll see a pop-up appear near the bottom right corner, and you can simply select Connect from down here to automatically connect your Xbox controller to Windows. And just like that, the Xbox Series controller is connected and ready to go. You can close out the Bluetooth connection tool, along with any pop-out notifications in the bottom right corner of Windows. On the 2DS or 3DS side, put the micro SD or SD card back into your device and turn it on. We're going to install the .cia file that's the helper and the bridge between your 3DS and your Windows machine. To do this, navigate to FBI on your modded 3DS system. This is the program that lets you install the .cia files. Locate FBI and select it with the A button. Take a look at the bottom display of FBI. The very first navigation listing here is SD. That's going to be your SD or microSD card. Select it with the A button. On the root of the SD card, you're going to find the .cia file that's called Artic Setup. Scroll down to that listing, and with the highlight on the Artic Setup CIA file selected with A, you're going to be asked whether you want to install the CIA file or install it and erase it from the system once you're done. You do want to go ahead and delete the CIA file because remember, it's still archived on your computer, and once it's installed, it's installed. So come down to the listing that says Install and Delete CIA and select it with A. Then at the confirmation screen that appears, either tap on or select Yes with the A button. It will install the CIA file and delete it from your microSD card. Once you're done with that, that's all you need to do with FBI. You can press the B button several times until you're back at the main menu of FBI, then press Home on your device. You'll see a notification that a new present is ready to unwrap. I love presents. And of course, that new present is the Artic Setup tool. On your device, scroll around until you get to the listing for it, and then unwrap the present with the A button. You'll now have access to the Artic Setup tool. Once you see the tool here, select it with the A button to launch it. You're going to see a pop-up message in the bottom touch display asking you if you want to close the existing application, which is FBI. You do, so either tap on it or select it with A to close out FBI. This will load the Homebrew launcher and then load the Artic Setup tool. These old eyes will certainly tell you it's not the easiest thing to read on screen, but don't sweat it. All you have to do here is just press the A button on the device. It's going to set up the Artic Setup tool for you and show you your device's IP address. This is my specific device's IP address. Yours is almost certainly going to be different, so don't use this as your exact IP in the next step. Just use it as a guide to know what to look for. And at this point, just leave your 2DS or 3DS device powered on and sitting right here for the remainder of the guide. Cool. With Wi-Fi and Bluetooth both connected and up and running, it's time to launch Azahar. Go back to the File Explorer window in the folder with Azahar and double-click the .exe file shown here. If you see a pop-up notification like this from Windows, don't sweat it. Just click the link that says More Info and come down to the bottom left corner and click on Run to launch the program. The first time you open the emulator, you're going to see this big notice right in the middle of it asking you to double-click. Don't do that. We're going to take a different approach here because we're going to transfer in your legally owned BIOS and system files from your device. Head up to the top left corner of the Azahar emulator window. Click on File, then come down to the drop-down listing that says Set Up System Files. Click on it with the left mouse button. You're going to see a new pop-up window appear. What you need to do is take that IP address exactly as it was provided to you by the Artic Setup tool and type it in right here. Also, take note that there's a green mark next to the listing that says Old 3DS in the bottom left corner. That's going to become relevant in just a minute if you're going to transfer in a new 3DS. Click on OK and give your computer and your 2DS or 3DS a minute to get connected. Once things work properly, you're going to see a pop-up appear, and you will see the operating system from your old model of 2DS or 3DS system pop up in the emulator for the first time. Pretty cool, huh? Instead of using touch with your finger or a stylus on the bottom screen, now you can use your mouse. You may be prompted to run a system software update. It's perfectly okay to do this, and I would recommend it at this point. Go ahead and run the system software update to see if there's anything available for the emulator. The process takes about 5 minutes or so in real time to complete. Once the update check is complete, your emulated 2DS or 3DS system needs to be restarted. Come down to OK and click on it in the bottom touchscreen area. If you have the original or old model of 2DS or 3DS system, you can skip this part. But if you have a new Nintendo 2DS or 3DS, go back up to File and come back down to Set Up System Files and click on it. Hey, remember how earlier we left the Artic Setup tool running on your 2DS or 3DS system? That's because we're going to transfer in your new Nintendo 3DS or 2DS files here. Come down to the bottom corner and click the radio button that says New 3DS. Your IP address will still be present in the Setup tool. Come down to OK at the bottom right corner and click on it. Give your system a moment and it will transfer in your BIOS and system software files from the new Nintendo 3DS or 2DS side of the house. Just like before, the dual screens on the 3DS or 2DS system will pop right up in Windows. To finish the setup, click OK in the bottom right corner. You'll be asked to accept the license agreement. To do this, come down to the bottom where it says I accept and click on it. Then give your system a moment to run another system software update. It's an expected behavior, just let it do its magic. Once it's done, you'll be notified that the system will be restarted. Come down to OK with the mouse pointer in the bottom touchscreen area and click on OK. And yeah, things don't really look any different inside the emulator yet. Here's the next step to take to bring the fire. Just close out the emulator. Seriously, close it out, and then once it's completely closed, go back to the Azahar.exe file and double-click on it to reopen the emulator. And presto! You now have a working 2DS or 3DS system in emulation in Windows. So you can do two major things from here at this point. The first one is you can open up any of the apps that you would typically see on the main menu of your 2DS or 3DS directly from the interface. In other words, you don't have to necessarily open up the entire operating system in the dual screen mode just to access one particular function. You can go directly to them, like for example system settings, by just double clicking on them right from inside the interface of the emulator. So check this out. Here's system settings, just double click on it and it opens up the dual screen mode with system settings directly inside the emulator. The other way you can go about this is you can open up the 3DS like you've literally powered it on for the first time. So I'm going to close this out so that we can go back to the main emulator interface. If you go up to the top left corner where File is located and click on File. Once you click on File, in the drop-down menu, you'll see a listing that says Boot Home. And then whatever region of system you've transferred over to it, you'll see that it's highlighted here. So in this case, it's US, and I'm going to go over to the USA option and click on it. This is going to boot the 3DS exactly like we powered it on for the first time. And you'll see the dual screens appear. And you can set up and control it exactly like your original hardware 2DS or 3DS system. Now's the perfect time before you start playing your games to set up your gamepad inside Azahar. Go up to Emulation in the top menu and click on it. Then come down to Configure in the drop-down menu and left-click. You're going to see a series of tabs across the left side of the setup menu. Click on the one that says Control shown here. This is going to open up what's called the controller bindings. Bindings is just a fancy term for meaning map the buttons, triggers, sticks, and D-pad on your gamepad to various functions inside the game. To do this, you just locate the one that you want. For example, if you want to map the A, B, X, Y buttons on your 2DS or 3DS system to your A, B, and X and Y buttons on the Xbox controller, then you just click on these one at a time, and then when prompted, you push the button on the controller that matches the corresponding button for the 2DS or 3DS system that's shown in the bindings. Now you can map out the buttons, triggers, sticks, and D-pad on any gamepad that you've connected to your Windows computer to map out the way that you like to play. Once you've mapped out your gamepad, come down to OK and click on it. Alright, you've put in the setup work, it's time to do some gaming. Go up to File in the top left corner and click on it. Near the top, you're going to see a listing here that says Load File. Hover over it with the mouse pointer and left click. You'll need to navigate to the location that has your game backups that are in .cci format. Remember, in this case, it's in a folder called Demo. Your folder name's likely to be different. Just be sure to pick the folder that has your own game backups. So in this case, it's the one called Demo. And then here's that game, Tales of the Abyss, in .cci format. I'm going to select it here by clicking on it, and then clicking Open. It's going to immediately load the game into the emulator, and just like that, it's time to game. I mean, how cool is that you can play your backed up 3DS games in Windows? They look and sound great, and being able to play them on the big screen is a huge bonus. A couple of quick settings here of note. The first one is if you go up to View, then hover over Screen Layout, you can choose how you want the screens laid out on screen. For example, if you don't want to see the bottom screen, pick Single Screen. This will only show you the top screen from the two in your main Windows display. Okay, one more super useful thing to know before we land the plane here. You can set up individual game options while the game is running. So for example, I've got Tales of the Abyss running here. If you go back up to Emulation, then go down near the bottom where it says Configure Current Application and left click on it, it's going to pull out a pop-up menu that lets you configure individual game settings to your liking. Remember how I mentioned earlier that the emulator would know what game you're running? Well, here it is. If you look in the top left corner, it's got the image and the name for the game represented here. From this screen, you can set up individualized settings for each game rather than having to do them on a global basis. The 3DS isn't the only Nintendo system that can be emulated in Windows. This video will show you how to emulate Wii and GameCube.